Well, my stepdaughter laughed and said, "Logan's more of a dad to me anyway." And my wife smirked like she agreed. I didn't argue. I didn't even blink. I just smiled, cleared their plates, and began a revenge I'd been planning for over 6 years. They thought I'd fade away. Instead, I made sure they'd feel my absence like an earthquake. Let's begin. My name's Mason Cole, and until last night, I was the man who held the entire household together, quietly, patiently, without applause. It was a Tuesday evening, not a holiday, not an anniversary, just another weekday in our upscale Boulder neighborhood where silence says more than truth. I had just grilled lemon garlic chicken, something I marinated before dawn and slow roasted all afternoon. It was the kind of dinner you make for people you love, or at least used to love, but they didn't notice. Avery, my wife of 19 years, was more focused on her glass of red wine than anything I placed on the table. Her lips were painted, nails manicured, phone buzzing every few minutes with messages she kept flipping face down. Across the table, Madeline, my stepdaughter, now 21 and home from college, scrolled through her feed and barely touched her food. Then she looked up, twirled her fork, and said it. With a grin, "Logan bought me a new leather tote. Said I needed something better than that cheap thing you got me last Christmas." Then she stabbed a piece of asparagus, chewed dramatically, and added without blinking, "He's more of a dad to me anyway." The room didn't go quiet. Avery laughed, not awkwardly, not nervously, but smugly, like I had finally been shoved out of the frame of their lives. I didn't yell. I didn't slam the table. I just said, "Good to know." Then I picked up their plates, scraped them clean into the trash. That lemon garlic chicken, 6 hours of effort, gone with one flick of my wrist. I heard Avery murmur something about her Pilates class while I washed dishes. Madeline started giggling in the living room about Logan, her mother's gym trainer, and apparently now her shopping companion. They didn't lower their voices. They weren't scared of me hearing anymore, because they had forgotten I was there. They had already erased me. But what they didn't know, I had seen this coming. Avery used to be subtle, hiding her perfume, covering up her long phone calls. Then she stopped. The gym bag she never brought inside. The smell of unfamiliar cologne when she hugged me from behind. Once every few weeks now, like it was a chore. Logan, a man I once paid to train her for a half marathon. A man who couldn't spell discipline, but apparently knew how to stretch her until she forgot who kept the lights on. I knew. I'd known for months. But that dinner, that laugh, that was the moment I stopped pretending. While they watched true crime on Netflix, I walked upstairs and opened a drawer they both thought was empty. Inside was an old black ThinkPad. Offline. No Wi-Fi. No Bluetooth. Just storage. Old school digital muscle. I powered it up. Typed the password. Still worked. Inside a folder marked Ironwood, a name neither of them ever bothered to ask me about, were copies of our postnuptial agreement, PDFs of bank accounts, backup keys to cloud drives, notarized documents, and every message Avery ever sent to Logan. Even the ones she deleted. I had it all. For years, I'd been quietly building an escape. Because real men don't scream when they're betrayed. They design exits no one sees coming. That night, while they laughed on the couch, I sat outside on the porch, the same porch I sanded and painted myself, and stared into the mountains. I had just become a ghost. Not dead, not gone, but almost untouchable. At 3:14 a.m., I changed the passwords. Every single one. Bank accounts, utilities, insurance, even the damn streaming services. By sunrise, I wasn't their husband or their provider. I was a man halfway vanished. And by evening, they'd be choking on the silence I left behind. I left at 6 a.m. sharp. No note, no coffee, no hesitation. Just a duffel bag, a burner phone, and a face that didn't belong to them anymore. The moving truck pulled up exactly when I told it to. 6:05 a.m. No logos, no corporate uniforms, no tracking ID. Just an old friend, retired from the railway, who now helped men like me vanish. His name was Cal Benton. We used to work side by side under freezing steel and grit. The kind of man who didn't ask why, just nodded and lifted heavy things. "You ready?" Cal asked, voice like gravel. I nodded once. We moved fast. Not like thieves, like surgeons. Precise. Cold. Efficient. I only packed what was mine. Tools. My books. The ones Avery said were too boring to decorate with. The metal box of letters I'd kept since high school. My union plaques. My father's old compass. The fireproof lockbox with backup drives. One watch. One signed photograph of me on my first day as a foreman. That was it. No souvenirs. No family albums. No traces of Avery's touch. She'd know I was serious when she saw what was missing. And more importantly, what wasn't. I left the wedding photos. Not for nostalgia. For revenge. Let her stare at them while sitting in a house that echoed. Let her notice how fake her smile looked next to mine. From the bedroom closet, I took my clothes, neatly folded. My side of the drawers. Emptied. Hers. Untouched. Her silk robes and overpriced workout gear still hung neatly on golden hangers. Let her think that made her look put together. It wouldn't matter soon. I was methodical. I'd planned every move, because I'd spent the past 2 years watching them unravel my loyalty like it was disposable. That tote Logan bought Madeline, paid for by a card I had no idea she still had access to, until I saw the receipt uploaded to our cloud account. I started preparing the day. I found a gym selfie that Avery had tried to crop, but the edge of a man's leg was still there. Not mine. Never wore socks like that. I didn't confront her. Instead, I studied finance law, asset protection, cloud security, real estate clauses. Every night while she was out at Pilates, I read. Not because I was paranoid, because I no longer believed in permanence. I had set up 3 financial lifelines years ago. Account 1, the joint one, Avery's pride and joy. I made sure to keep it just above average. The bills, the groceries, all the things she could track. Account 2, a retirement fund. She knew about it, but didn't understand it. Thanks to our post-nup, which she skimmed through like a yoga waiver, I retained full control. Account 3, untouchable, offshore, quiet, billed under a name they'd never recognize, registered to a trust under a borrowed legacy, one they mocked when I suggested building generational wealth. At 9:40 a.m., I parked outside the community library, connected to their Wi-Fi, and started the final sweep. I transferred funds, liquidated assets, triggered time deletion for any digital trail with my name on it, canceled every subscription, deleted every connected device, Netflix, Spotify, even the damn smart thermostat. You don't get to call a man useless and expect to keep his heating settings. At 11:52 a.m., I walked into a FedEx store and mailed a single envelope to our house. Inside was a short note, scrawled in pen. Avery, when you read this, don't call me. I'm not missing. I'm just done. P.S. You left the garage door opener in my truck. Figured you'd want it back. By 3 p.m., I was sitting in a worn leather chair in Cal's mountain cabin, sipping black coffee and watching clouds crawl over pine-covered hills. No signal, no noise, no names, just peace. You sure this is how you want to go out? Cal asked, not judging, just confirming. I took a long sip and stared at the fireplace. I'm not going out, I said. I'm starting over. That evening, my phone buzzed once. A picture. Avery and Madeline. Full glam. Designer bags. Captioned, Girls' Day Out Monty, Petty, and Shopping Spree. Love our tribe. I didn't reply. I didn't even save it, because they didn't know yet. But that house they were walking back into, it wasn't theirs anymore. It was an empty stage, and the man they mocked for being too quiet had written the entire final act. It was nearly 7 p.m. when they got home. Avery still wore the smug satisfaction of someone who had spent too much money and felt like she'd earned it. Madeline was buried in her phone, laughing at some story Logan had sent her about a new gym opening. They didn't notice anything at first. Not right away. It was the kind of shift you don't register immediately, like walking into your childhood home and sensing something's off but not knowing what. A quiet too quiet. An air that felt vacant. Avery stepped into the foyer and froze. Gone. No couch. No chairs. No decorative rug. The walls still held the framed art she insisted on from that overpriced gallery downtown, but everything else? Stripped. Just bare wood floors and the echo of her heels tapping across them. What the hell? She muttered. Madeline blinked. Was there a break-in? No, Avery said slowly, her voice already tinged with something deeper than confusion. She scanned the room like it had personally betrayed her. No one breaks in and vacuum cleans. The TV was still there, bolted to the wall, but the soundbar was gone. So was the coffee table. Even the fluffy throw pillows Madeline used to kick around were missing. They dropped their shopping bags. $800 of makeup, skin cream, and designer junk landing like evidence on hardwood. They moved like a slow-motion crime scene unit, stepping through their own house as if it had turned hostile. Avery's hand hovered over the light switch as she moved toward the dining area. The table was gone. The chairs? Gone. Even the matching wine rack Avery loved to show off during girls' nights? Stripped clean. Okay, Madeline snapped, tension rising. What is this? Is this a prank? Avery didn't answer. She was walking faster now, toward the stairs, toward the bedroom. They bolted up the steps. Avery's side of the closet, untouched. Her perfume. Her cashmere sweaters. The lace robe Logan bought her still hanging by a satin hanger. But Mason's side? Empty. Every shirt. Every boot. Every belt. Gone. Just dust outlines where his things used to rest. Madeline opened the hall closet. Her voice was hushed. Mom, he took his towels. Avery stared into the walk-in closet like it had betrayed her personally. Her breath picked up. Her hand shook as she pulled open the dresser drawer, also empty. Not a sock. Not a stray receipt. Not a cent. Only then did she whisper it. He's gone. They made their way back downstairs, slower this time, like they were no longer sure if they belonged in this house. Then they saw it, propped up on the kitchen counter, perfectly placed, a framed photo, a memory they thought was theirs. A picnic 7 years ago. Mason's arms wrapped around both of them. Avery smiling in sunglasses. Madeline on his shoulders, laughing in a way she hadn't done in years. Back when he still meant something to them. Next to the photo sat a white envelope. Written on it, in bold block letters. Madeline, college. Her fingers trembled as she tore it open. Inside, a folded letter, printed clean. You were 12 when I started saving for you. Not because I had to, but because I believe in your future more than you believed in me. I thought I'd be in the front row one day, clapping louder than anyone else. But that version of you, she doesn't exist anymore. So your future won't come from me. She reached into the envelope and found a second item, a bank statement. She unfolded it, then froze. Her lips barely moved. $132,000 gone. Avery snatched the paper from her, eyes scanning wildly. Her breathing grew sharp. Where is it? She asked, not realizing her voice was cracking. Where did it go? Madeline opened her laptop. She started checking login details to the account Mason had set up in her name years ago. The security questions weren't hers anymore. The passwords were locked. She dug deeper. Finally, she found a redirection. An account transfer. To a trust. Recipient. A. Vega. Madeline blinked. Who's Ava Vega? Avery turned slowly, like a machine overheating. No. But Madeline was already scrolling through old messages. Her eyes wide, her pulse rising. Then she found it. A tagged Instagram photo from a girl she barely remembered from middle school. Ava Vega, pre-law, CSU, scholarship student, class of 2028. Madeline whispered, almost gasping. He gave my future to someone else. Avery's mouth hung open. She walked to the fridge, then to the medicine cabinet. Mason's vitamins gone. His toothbrush. His razor. His cologne. Gone. Like he'd never been real. Like he had just evaporated. Madeline fell back against the kitchen island, stunned. He didn't leave us, she whispered. He removed us. Avery's eyes locked on the envelope again. But this time she didn't cry. She clenched her jaw. This isn't the end, she hissed. He's planning something. And she was right. Because this wasn't his revenge. This was just his hello. Madeline sat alone at the kitchen island later that night, her laptop glowing softly in the dark. Her phone was beside her, silent, screen down. She hadn't said a word since the bank login failed the 4th time. She'd tried everything. Her middle name, her first dog, even Mason's hometown. Nothing worked. The money was gone. Locked. But what bothered her more was who it went to. She refreshed Ava Vega's Instagram again. Her profile was private, but the bio said enough. Scholarship student, pre-law, CSU 28, grateful. Grateful. That single word gnawed at Madeline. She clicked through old tags. Found one from a blurry cafe photo last summer. Ava in the background, holding her laptop. Madeline's laptop. The dent on the corner was still there. The sunflower-shaped bell on the mint green bicycle, also hers once. Every item was something she'd once owned. Now it all belonged to Ava. Avery stepped in, her robe loosely tied, a glass of wine shaking in her hand. She hadn't spoken to Madeline since they found the banknote. "Did you figure it out?" she asked. Madeline nodded slowly. "The money, it's in a trust. For her. Ava Vega. Thomas's daughter." Avery froze. "Thomas." Madeline looked up, her eyes bitter. "My biological father. The man you said was a drunk with a record." Avery said nothing, just turned pale. Madeline kept scrolling, jaw clenched. Another photo. Ava standing in front of Modest House. Mason's old mailbox visible behind her, the one he built himself. Avery sat down, stunned. "He gave her everything," Madeline whispered. "Not just the money. My future. My place." Then she said something neither of them wanted to admit. "He replaced me." Avery blinked fast, mouth open, but no words coming out. For the first time, she looked older, tired, weighed down not by betrayal, but by the sharp awareness of what she had taken for granted, and what was never coming back. By morning, the house didn't feel like a home anymore. The walls were the same, the furniture still missing, but the energy, it was different now, heavily still, like the oxygen had been filtered through guilt and realization. Avery sat stiffly on the edge of the living room floor. No couch, just a rug-shaped shadow where one used to be. Her phone was in her hand, but she hadn't pressed send on the message she typed over and over again. "Please just talk to me. We can fix this. You made your point." Delete. Rewrite. Repeat. Madeline hadn't come downstairs yet. When she finally did, she wore her hoodie from high school, sleeves pulled down over her hands like armor. Her hair was tied back hastily, and her eyes were red from a night of scrolling through Ava Vega's world. She sat beside her mother without a word. Avery finally looked at her. "You okay?" Madeline didn't nod, didn't shrug. She just stared ahead. "I texted him," Avery said softly. Still nothing. "He's not going to answer." Avery looked down at her phone and sighed. "He always answers." But not this time. At 9:03 p.m. that night, her phone buzzed once. Voicemail. No caller ID. Just unknown. Avery tapped play and set the phone on speaker. It was Mason's voice. Calm. Measured. "Icy. You called me weak. You laughed in my face in my house after I spent 20 years building a life around you. And when I didn't rage, when I stayed silent, you mistook that for surrender." Avery's hands trembled. Madeline didn't move. But silence isn't surrender. Silence builds things. Like distance. Like resolve. Like exit plans. He paused, long enough that you could almost hear him breathing through the pain. "I didn't take your future. I gave it to someone who never mocked me for giving in the first place." Click. No goodbye. No, maybe someday. Just a void where their version of him used to exist. Avery dropped her phone and buried her face in her palms, shoulders shaking. Madeline didn't cry. She stared at the ceiling like it might give her some answer, something to blame. But there was nothing. No footsteps. No knock at the door. No forgiveness coming around the corner. Later that week, they drove 2 hours to a university auditorium. They didn't speak the entire ride. They sat in the back. Avery wore a dress that didn't fit the way it used to. Madeline wore black slacks, and that same hoodie, zipped all the way up. On stage, the presenter called the next scholarship recipient. The Mason Cole Resilience Award goes to Ava Vega. The applause was loud. Ava walked out in a simple dress, hair pulled back, no flash, no filters. She unfolded a note and read, "This scholarship changed more than my future. The man behind it showed up for me when no one else did. He's not my father, but he never needed to be. He believed in me when I didn't even know how to ask for help." Mason stood in the back. No suit, just a navy shirt and the old watch Madeline gave him when she was 9. He didn't clap. He didn't cry. He just watched. Not them. Ava. Avery leaned close, whispering, "Does he even know we're here?" Madeline didn't answer. Then Mason turned. Quietly. No dramatics. No last look. Just done. He walked out, as the audience clapped for the girl they never expected to rise. And Avery. She watched him disappear into the crowd. Not angry. Just finished.